Pause. Imagine a city the size of modern-day Los Angeles. Now imagine every single person in that city vanishing in just over a year. That is the scale of what happened in Bengal in 1943. Up to 3 million people died not from bombs or bullets, but from the slow, agonizing grip of starvation. Men, women, children. This was not a natural disaster, it was a man-made catastrophe, a holocaust of hunger, engineered by policy and prejudice. The sheer number is difficult to comprehend. The fields were not barren, and the rains had not entirely failed. The food was there, but it was kept from the people who desperately needed it. The tragedy unfolded in plain sight on the streets of Calcutta. And in the quiet villages of the countryside. People became walking skeletons, families disintegrated, selling their land, their belongings, even their children for a handful of rice. The social fabric was torn to shreds as desperation replaced dignity. Journalists and photographers documented the horror with images of emaciated mothers clutching lifeless babies. Pause. Before the darkness of 1943 descended, Bengal was known as a land of abundance. It was the Golden Bengal, celebrated in poetry and song for its fertile soil and life-giving rivers. The vast delta created a landscape of incredible productivity. Ganges, Brahmaputra. For centuries, this region was the rice bowl of India, producing bountiful harvests year after year. Life revolved around the rhythms of agriculture. Monsoon rains dictated the cycles of planting and reaping. Villages were woven into a complex social tapestry. Communities shared resources and supported one another. Water was everywhere. Rivers, ponds, canals. Water provided fish and sustained the lush green paddy fields. Life, for the average Bengali villager, was modest but self-sufficient. Most people were farmers, artisans, fishermen. Their existence was tied to the land and the water. The diet was simple but nourishing. Rice, fish, vegetables from small garden plots. Families lived in close-knit communities, homes clustered together sharing courtyards and daily chores. While poverty was a reality for many, particularly the landless laborers, the system generally provided enough for survival. Pause. When World War II broke out in 1939, it seemed a distant conflict to the people of Bengal. Battles were being fought thousands of miles away in Europe. The immediate impact on daily life in Bengal was minimal at first, but as the war escalated and spread, its shadow began to creep across the Indian subcontinent. The British Empire mobilized all its resources for the war effort. India, the jewel in the crown, was expected to contribute significantly. The propaganda pushed Indians to help the war effort. That meant providing soldiers, raw materials, and, crucially, food. Vast quantities of grain were diverted to feed the Allied armies and war industries. The pressure on Bengal's agricultural system mounted. The province was ordered to supply rice to Indian troops fighting abroad, and to other parts of India, and to allied nations like Ceylon, modern-day Sri Lanka. A massive influx of soldiers, industrial workers, and refugees flooded Bengal's cities. These new arrivals had purchasing power and drove up food prices. The delicate balance between supply and demand was shattered. Rice that had once been plentiful for locals was siphoned away for the war, creating artificial scarcity and crushing inflation. Fearing a Japanese invasion, the British enacted a boat denial policy along the coast. They confiscated and destroyed thousands of fishing and transport boats. That single act crippled the local economy. Vital transport networks that moved rice and goods to markets were severed. Entire villages became isolated and impoverished. The British also financed the war by printing more money. More currency without more goods caused rampant inflation. Rice prices skyrocketed disproportionately. Those with government contracts saw incomes rise, but the vast majority, landless laborers, fishermen, and artisans, watched their earnings become worthless. They could no longer afford food grown next to their homes. The war had arrived in Bengal not with bombs, but with economic policies that were just as deadly. At the heart of the British response, or the lack thereof, was one man, Prime Minister Winston Churchill. As if Europe's pressures were not enough, the conflict in Asia delivered a catastrophic blow to Bengal's fragile food security. In early 1942, the Japanese Empire invaded Burma, Britain's colony east of Bengal. Burma had long supplied India, and especially Bengal, with rice. Its fall cut that lifeline overnight. 1 to 2 million tons of rice per year simply vanished. Panic spread. Merchants and wealthy farmers hoarded grain, expecting shortages and soaring prices. Speculative hoarding removed rice from markets, creating immediate shortage. Refugees from Burma poured into Bengal, straining food supplies and services. Rural relief was diverted to crisis management. Militarization tightened the noose. The army had priority over food, transport, and supplies, competing directly with civilians. Denial policies seized boats and rice to deny resources to Japan, but starved Bengal's rural economy. Requests to divert grain shipments were refused, international aid offers were rejected, choices sealed millions' fate. The famine is a lasting lesson about power, policy, and the value of human life. Famines are rarely natural. They are made by decisions determining who eats and who does not. British failure shattered the myth of benevolent rule and fueled the final push to independence in 1947. India pursued self-sufficiency, public distribution, and buffer stocks, policies born from 1943. Today, as conflicts disrupt supplies, the moral imperative is clear. Humanitarian action must outrank distant strategy. Remembering Bengal's Holocaust of hunger is an act of justice and a warning against indifference we cannot afford to forget.